Hey, everybody. Welcome to On the Queue with Qadriyyah Marie. It is a happy Wellness Wednesday. It was a beautiful Wednesday today. This is my very first show for the month of March. So I'm very excited to have my longtime friend from high school. He's been doing so many different things that I just discovered recently. So I reached out to him and I asked him to come on tonight's show because I thought he had a lot of knowledge to share. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Jean Bonneau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I hope I didn't mess it up.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted
Jean,
to. Yes, you can say it. I don't want to mess it up.
Jean Bonneau.
Bonneau. Okay.
Or if you were French or Haitian, you would say. If you were French or Haitian, you would say Jean Raymond Bonneau.
Jean Raymond Bonneau.
Jean Raymond Bonneau. Jean Raymond Bonneau.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds a lot better than how I just said it. I should have just let you introduce yourself.
That is fine.
So I just want to welcome, everyone tonight who's going to join us. You guys can feel free to ask questions. Jean and I will both be able to read the questions, and I'll have him answer the questions for you because I don't know much about all this topic. I'm here to learn just as much as you guys are as far as about real estate, cryptocurrency, Black wealth. So we have a number of different topics that we're going to try to get to. The show is an hour show, but we may end up having a part two because Jean has so much knowledge on this from personal experience. So I want to give him the opportunity to shine for tonight's show and also any future shows. So I just want to give people some time to come on, to come on and start watching and join us and dig up any questions that they might have. Jean, how have you been? I haven't seen you since last year, right? I believe. Yeah, it's been a year.
I've been very preoccupied with my 5 children and
right, of course,
my 3 jobs and
3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like if you can make money, make it.
Right.
There's a lot of people who have unfortunate circumstances. They can't. If you can, you should go make it.
Well, that's what people need to do. A lot of people didn't take advantage of the pandemic. And I'm pretty sure you probably learned how to find or created your own opportunities during this time where everybody else is probably struggling.
The pandemic was hard on a lot of people, including myself.
Right.
I was sick myself. I had COVID.
Yes, I remember.
A few of my siblings had COVID, and my mother ended up surpassing to COVID. But there's a lot of things that the COVID pandemic has taught a lot of us.
Right.
What about you? Have you been healthy during this pandemic?
Yeah, I've been pretty healthy for the most part, thankfully. I haven't had any issues, but I have lost, some family and friends as well. My uncle actually passed away in 2020, and a friend of mine. So I it did touch home in that sense, as far as that. But personally, I haven't had COVID myself. So I'm just hoping it stays that way. I just got my booster shot actually. So I'm glad I got that out the way as well.
Why do you think that there's a struggle with African Americans with getting the booster?
You said why do you get
getting vaccinated? Yeah.
I think part of this. I'm just changing something really fast on the page. I think part of it is that, and I was just watching this the other day, Mrs. Evers' Boys. I think it goes back to things like that, the Tuskegee study, where Black people, are fearful of being experimented on. I think that's a big part of it, is the actual fear of not trusting the government. For obvious reasons, that goes back hundreds of years as far as for Black Americans. So we just have a lot of fear of being lied to and being told that there's this big, pandemic happening, and you have to do this or that, or you're going to die or risk dying. And I think people are very fearful of actually believing what the government has to say to them. So I think that's a big part of it. Also, social economics.
The reason why I jumped at the opportunity to get vaccinated. I mean, I got vaccinated the first day that I was able to, was because I had COVID, and my COVID experience was absolutely terrible. It was miserable.
Right.
I've never been that sick before in my entire life. And my mom passed away from COVID, and I believe that if she could have had, thank you, if she could have had the vaccination, she would still be with us. She would have still been able to, raise her 20 grandchildren. She would have still been here.
Their line of work. So it's pretty much came to that, at least within the last 6 months or so. People who were hesitant have succumbed to actually going now because of the possibility of losing their jobs, even though they technically shouldn't be firing people for that. But we've seen all over the news how that has been happening.
The vaccine mandates.
Right. The people feel like they have to go versus them choosing to go. And not even for job purposes, traveling, as well. And also, for health reasons, for senior loved ones or people with, with disabilities or lower immune systems, they felt like they had to go and get vaccinated in order to be around their loved ones. So I feel like, again, a lot of people felt like they've been forced to go. Whereas last year they were kind of like, oh, if I don't have to, I won't. So that I was kind of in between, on the fence, for a while. But I was like, no, let me go. I know I may be around different people. I don't know what's going on and stuff with them. So I said, let me just go. Plus, my job was kind of like pushing it too. They're making it more difficult for people who didn't receive the vaccination. So I just said, well, let me just go and just pray and hope for the best. Because you just never know. We never know with any of these vaccines what the hell they're actually doing to us. You just have to let go and let God, I feel like. Hey, MJ, joining us tonight. So do you want to share your insight on that, and then we can start getting into the real estate questions?
Yeah, I do think that it may sound somewhat controversial, but I do think that the CDC does share some blame in the mistrust. I do believe that there was a lot of miscommunication.
Right.
At the very beginning, in February, we were told that this was not a big deal. And then a month later, my mom dies along with thousands of people. And then everyone has to start wearing masks. Well, why didn't you tell us that back in February?
Right, they didn't.
Why didn't you tell us that back in March?
Right.
And then what kind of masks? Some masks ended up working, some masks ended up not. They told us that, we can't touch packages without washing them down. And I do understand that there is a journey of science where, you learn more as more time goes on.
Right, you do.
There was a lot of messaging.
Right.
And even now, we were told that the vaccines, we would be good. And now I got a booster, and I got another email saying I'm gonna need another booster soon.
Wait, another
I think,
booster after this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Pfizer wants to give us another booster soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's already been hard for people to even get the first one. So.
And the Johnson & Johnson debacle. Oh my gosh, when they
Yeah.
came out and said that a small percentage of the vaccine recipients ended up getting sick, that just gave all of the naysayers and the doubters the ammunition. I knew it! I knew it! I told you! That was like, oh my gosh, why? That was terrible.
Well, you have to let, again, you have to let people make their own choice. I feel like that's what this country is about, or at least should be. Everyone having their own, choice with what their own bodies and their health. But I would like to start to get into some of the questions. I know we have people waiting and interested. I had a few people hit me up and say they're curious about tonight's show. So we can start with something I know you know a lot about, as far as getting into debt and working your way out of it. So would you like to talk to people more about the different debt traps that I know you mentioned to me before, about how the economy, you said the economy set us up for that. How could you avoid actually getting caught up in what you call a debt trap?
So I will say this, that I'm going to embarrass myself a little bit because I made a lot of mistakes. So when I was young, I was 22, 23 years old, and I was making a very good living as an ultrasound tech. I was making somewhere in the range of $70,000 to $80,000 a year.
Wow.
And you would think that I would have no financial issues.
Right.
Right? Yeah. I was newly married, and it came time to buying a house. We went to the mortgage company, Wells Fargo.
Yes.
And they looked at my income, and they said, well, you make about $6,300 a month. That's what you gross. You know what you can do? You could afford $2,500 a month in mortgage. Okay. That's what they said that I could afford. So I went out and I got a $250,000 home. Now, this was back during the 2008 mortgage crisis. This was when banks were handing out mortgages left and right. This is actually something that led to a recession, that led to the stock market dropping, that led to home values dropping. And it all was due to mismanagement by the banks. That everyone, you get a mortgage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can afford it.
Wow. Okay.
And if you ever watch a movie called The Big Short, they predicted it. There were some predictions that this would end up happening. So anyway, I bit off more than I can chew. I ended up buying, so let's say $6,300 gross, and then I had a $2,500 mortgage payment, $500 brand new 2007 Suzuki XL7 payment, which also added a $200 car insurance payment to that. And then you add on the utilities, that's an extra $300. You add on groceries, you add on gas, you add on basic living. And I was in the red every single month. I ended up asking my father-in-law to borrow money every single month. It's embarrassing. And I tried to keep up the charade for as long as I possibly could. Which it was, faking it till you make it. It was all a lie. it was a house built on nothing. So I was able to keep making payments for about 3 years. And then I wasn't able to anymore. And I realized something, that and I would like people to think about this, question. The things that you have in your life, the materialistic things, your house, your car, do you feel comfortable knowing that you own them? Or do you feel comfortable knowing that they could be taken away next week just because you're living paycheck to paycheck like I was? And I think that when you make that decision, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take living paycheck to paycheck, not knowing that, yeah, they did end up taking my car. I walked outside one morning and I didn't see my car there anymore. I called the police. The police said, yeah, no, I don't know. We didn't. And they ended up calling me and said, yeah, we took your car.
Wow.
Couldn't get to walk. Wells Fargo ended up saying that they want the money. I didn't pay the mortgage for 2 years.
For 2 years, you didn't pay any mortgage?
No, a $2,500 month payment. And the obvious question would be, oh, well, if you wasn't paying the mortgage, that means you should have been having all of this extra money. No.
Right.
Because I was in the vet. I did so many dumb things. I went out and I bought $10,000 worth of brand new furniture. I went out and I bought a $5,000 piano.
Wow, so you was...
I don't even play the piano.
What was you doing? Oh, goodness.
Do you know why I did this?
Back at it now, you're like, well, that was kind of frivolous. That was silly. But at the time, I guess you thought that, you might as well do it. You're already like in debt, so.
It's tough because I come from single mom, 7 children.
Right. Me too.
And you want success so badly.
Right, you do.
When you grow up poor, you get blindsided by the lights. And my situation was actually more distinguished from others because my father, he lived with us for the first 6 or 7 years of my life. And he made a lot of money. He made more money than I make right now. So we ended up we started off in Orange, in a lower income area.
Right.
And then we ended up moving to South Orange.
Okay.
Which is a middle upper class area.
Right.
We ended up living in a house that currently today is $1.2 million. My dad, a Haitian immigrant, bought a house. He started a construction business, and he bought a house that today is worth $1.2 million. That's how successful he was.
Right.
And what did he end up doing? He bit off too much, more than he can chew. And he was working so much he couldn't spend time with any of us.
Right.
And the stress from all of that got to him. And he just, one day he quit. And he left.
It was too much, yeah.
And the 7 kids. So that house ended up being foreclosed on. And we were moved back into the lower income area. So it was a culture shock from going from low income to middle upper class.
Right, it would be. Yeah.
And for anyone who knows what that's like, once I saw that I was going to get $70,000-$80,000 a year. I wanted to get right back up on that mountain immediately.
Right, you wanted to get back to what you like, what you grew up with.
That boy who saw that big, huge house and had to drive from it.
Right.
I wanted that life back.
So you're saying because of what you did as an adult, it's recently in the future, it was affected by your childhood.
And I think a lot of people
in your
like
past,
that.
you were trying to get, some of that back. But in the process, you didn't realize that it was actually putting you further away from what it is that you actually wanted. But
exactly.
Like you said, you get caught up. They always say this: when you make more money, you end up spending more, versus people learning how to actually stay within a certain means. But then no one wants to do that. People want to make more so that they could buy more, so that they could buy those $5,000 pianos. So it's very hard situation to be in, because you want to make more so that you could have more. But then when you get more, you have to be able to keep up with that lifestyle. And that's the hard part. You may only be able to do that for a certain amount of time, unless you keep making more.
That's why I think you should ask the question, when you get things, materialistic things, do you want to hold them for a while, or do you want to keep them?
That's important.
Because when you hold them for a while, that's living paycheck to paycheck. If you go to sleep with a pressure on your chest, not knowing if next week you could keep your home or keep your car, I don't think that's a way to live. I've lived it for years. It was terrible.
Yeah. So how did you get out of it? Because I think that's an important thing to talk about, and something I was excited to hear from you about how you actually worked your way out of that situation. So do you want to talk just briefly about some steps that you took? I don't know if it was in investing or what it is you actually did, but I'm interested in hearing that as well.
So in 2014, well, I should say back in 2011, something happened. I had a daughter. Her name is Emily. She only lived for about 10 weeks. She had a heart condition. And she passed away. And when she passed away, the life insurance company told me that because she only lived for 10 weeks, she was only going to get $1,000. If she was going to live for 2 weeks, 3 months, she would have ended up getting $5,000.
Wow.
So I had to tell her mother, hey, the funeral expenses, I see that you're planning this and you're planning that. Just need you to know we can't afford that anymore.
Wow.
And I don't know if you can imagine how difficult that is to tell a grieving mother
I
who just
can
lost
imagine.
her daughter. You can't even. We're so broke, we can't even bury our daughter the way that we want to.
Right.
So I ended up, within 2011, 2012, I ended up losing my daughter. I ended up getting my car repossessed. My house ended up getting foreclosed on officially in 2014. And I was broke. All of these credit cards and the piano, the furniture, I ended up close to $70,000 in just commercial debt. And things like this, tragedy, could bring people together or tear them apart.
Right. Yeah, either way.
It never does nothing.
Right.
Things like this is going to have an impact. So to add on to all of that, I ended up going through a divorce, which ended up costing me $7,000 as well. So I have, I still had my two boys. I ended up having twin boys back in 2006. I was divorced. I ended up losing my house, my car, my daughter. One glad thing I did not lose is I did not lose my job. I did not lose hope.
Right.
I was very depressed. I actually did end up going to get help. And I think that African Americans in particular,
right,
we have a tough time admitting that we need help.
Yeah, we do.
I ended up going to therapy. I was in therapy for 2 years after my divorce, which I think you need it. So I found someone named Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a Christian personal finance guru. He's one of the biggest people in the world who teaches people how to get out of debt. And he has these baby steps that you can use. And that's actually what I did. I ended up having to move to Camden, to an apartment. And that apartment ended up costing about $700 a month. Which, for someone who was making 80 grand, and I was paying child support at the time of $2,800 a month.
Oh, wow.
That was hard.
That sounds hard.
Well, I was paying alimony, not child support. It was combined amount, alimony, $2,800 a month. I was driving a 2001 Toyota Camry, I believe. And the baby steps that Dave Ramsey teaches is basically, first you save up $1,000 as an emergency fund, which I was able to do. Took me about 2 months. But after that, there are two main ways that you can pay off debt. One is Dave Ramsey's way, and the other way is, it's a little different. So, let's say you have 10 credit cards, and each credit card is $100, $200, $300, $400, $500, and so up to $1,000.
Right.
You would start with the $100 credit card, pay that off.
Okay.
And then the payment that you use for that card, say the monthly payment for that was $25 a month, you would then take that $25 a month and add that to the second payment. And so on and so forth, and continue paying off from smallest to largest. The benefits of that is, it's like having a weight, several weights on your back. Once you pay off that smaller debt, you have a little bit of weight come off your back.
That's true.
You get excited. You get happy. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was interesting. Okay.
Right.
Let's do it again. So you do it again, and the second debt gets paid off, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, nice. And then the third debt comes off,
Right.
all right, it's working. And you end up getting encouraged and excited to see the next debt to get paid off. Now, the second way to pay off debt is called the avalanche, and that is when you pay off the highest interest rate. So, with all of my dumb mistakes, the highest interest rate that I had was on, yeah. I'll tell you something else stupid that I bought. I bought a water purification system for my house.
Mm.
The house that was foreclosed on, by the way.
Wow.
And the water purification system was financed by Aqua Finance, and that was $8,000, and the interest rate was about 29%. Now, as far as a debt trap, here's one of the debt traps. When the guy came to the house and he said, hey, we have this water purification system. It's going to make your water so pure. It's going to make you so healthy. Your ice cubes are going to look clear. Your skin is going to start looking youthful. Everything is... Here's what they tell you. They tell you the payment.
Right.
So the payment was, I think, $60 a month. What they don't end up telling you is that you're going to end up paying that for like 7, 8, 9 years. And if you miss a payment, they're going to bump the interest rate even higher.
Yeah, you don't know those things at first.
So I think one of the traps that people fall into, that I fell into, is when you look at purchasing something, the smart person, the more experienced person, asks how much is it?
Right.
The person who they want to sucker into debt just asks how much is the payment? Right. Not realizing that that payment doesn't mean anything. Because if you miss that one payment, that payment could gain 50%. It could double.
Right, you don't know.
It could end up being an ongoing battle where you end up having that debt for years beyond what you thought it would be.
Right.
So the interest rate method to pay off debt is mathematically accurate. You will pay off debt faster.
Okay.
The problem with that method is, Qadriyyah, if I told you that I have a diet for you, and you're going to end up losing 20 pounds, but you're going to do this diet and this exercise plan, and 4 or 5 months later, you're going to lose it. You're not going to lose anything up until 4 or 5 months later.
Okay.
Would you stick to it? You know, I would say the majority of people would say no, because they want to see progress right now. I'm not going to be sweating all day and sacrificing all day just so I can see progress 6 months from now. And that's the problem.
For me, it depends on what it is, what the actual goal is. So
that's one of the problems with the paying off the highest interest rate first. I chose to do the debt snowball method, paying off each debt, the smallest to largest, because I needed that encouragement. I needed that slow build
I
up.
believe in that. Start small, and once you start seeing those changes, then you can feel encouraged to do more.
And here's another thing that I did, and I think that a lot of people need to do this. When it comes to creditors, start getting mean. So I was in a fortunate position, unfortunate, that I had to pay $2,800 a month in alimony, but that was tax deductible. I ended up getting a very healthy tax refund. So what I started doing is I started my snowballs, paying small debts off, but the large ones, I did something a little different. I knew I was going to get a big lump sum payment from my tax refund.
Right.
Some people use their tax refund to buy a car, to buy clothes, to buy jewelry, to... Yeah. Why not use that to pay off debt? So, TD Financial, they are the ones that I owed my car repossession fee to. Even though they took my car, I still owed them $8,000. I don't know why. I don't know how. It is what it is. I still ended up owing them $8,000. Even though I had no car. So, I called TD Financial, TD Auto, and I said, look, it's January. In 2 months, I'm going to get a tax refund. I owe you guys $8,000. I'm going to pay you guys $5,700, and we're going to call it a day.
Right.
They said no, because that's their job. And I said, okay, I hung up.
Right.
Debt collectors, they have a way of always calling you. They keep calling you.
They'll call.
And every time that they called, which they did, I would say the same thing. And they would say no. And I would say, okay, there's nothing. I basically said this: if you don't want the money, I'm going to give it to the next person. And you're going to have to wait till next year. And they ended up taking it, $5,700.
Right.
I ended up saving $2,300. Now, they did end up writing me a 1099. I had to add that as taxable income the following year, the $2,300. But that's still, I only had to pay 20% of that. So I think a good method for people to start using is using your tax refund to make debt settlement payments. And be rude, be mean. Tell them straight up, you're not getting your money.
Right.
At this point, my credit score was only 500 something. What are you going to threaten me with?
Yeah.
You took my car. What else can you do?
Right. What else?
So for the next 4 years, I ended up paying all 4 tax refunds, paying off large debts. The furniture bill, the piano bill, the auto bill, aqua finance. I ended up paying the large ones with my tax refunds. And all of the small ones, I just made payments throughout those 4 years. It took me 4 years, and I ended up paying off about $85,000 worth of commercial credit card and student loan debt, too.
Wow, that's amazing.
On top of that, thank God for Barack Obama's mortgage forgiveness program. Because the home that was foreclosed, I ended up owing a balance of $300,000. But there was a mortgage forgiveness program that, because there was millions, 20 million Americans were like me. We all got ripped off by the system, telling us that we could afford more house than we could. And that's how I 4 years of consistent.
Well, that's still tremendous in a 4-year period. People are out here, 10 years and still not only not getting out the debt they had, but they're accumulating more debt and not working on getting rid of the previous debt. So do you have anything you want to share as far as once someone does get out of debt, what they can do as far as what you've been doing with, I know you were doing cryptocurrency, right? And you were doing other forms of investing. Do you want to share briefly about some of those ways that what people can do, not only to get out of debt, but what can they do once they are out of debt to actually increase their income and their assets as well?
Most jobs have a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, unfortunately, you can still open up a Roth IRA and start investing yourself. But
right,
if you are lucky enough to work for a job that has a 401k and they do matching, the way matching usually works is if you make $1,000 in your paycheck, most jobs might say we will match, say, 3% of that. So that's $30. If you if you decide to invest $30 of that $1,000,
mm-hmm.
they will match that $30 and you will end up doubling your money essentially. It's the best possible way to gain wealth, to double your money. Now, statistically, most people don't take advantage of even the 401k match. And
no, I don't think they
are losing money every month. Now, the next thing that you can do after you do that, you should only start doing this after you paid off all of your debt.
Okay.
This next part, after you paid off all of your debt, then you can start investing.
Okay.
In more conservative ways. Now, a lot of people have heard of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Sheeb, lots of different cryptocurrencies.
Right.
Here's the problem. I myself, I have about 3 or 4% of my net worth into cryptocurrency. Why so little? Why so little? Because
why?
It is extremely volatile.
Yeah. I've been hearing stuff like that, where you're really gambling with that.
Yeah, you can also make a lot of money. Last month, I put $400 into a coin called Luna Terra. In a month, I'm up 90%. Meaning I have over $350 worth of gains off of just $400. Now you might say, well, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. Why didn't you just put in $10,000?
Right.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because between that month, there were days that I was down $50, $100. Days I was up $50, $100. That's fine. I only put $400 in. But say if you put $10,000 in, and say if you open up your crypto wallet and you see that you're down $2,000 or $3,000, do you have what it takes to hold and just wait and see.
Right. Yeah. That's the test. I don't think I would either.
I don't. But if you play with smaller amounts of money, that's fine. You can see your account fluctuate up and down. You can see your account fluctuate 10% up and down in a given day. That doesn't happen in the stock market, at least in the major indices. So the three main indices that you have is the S&P 500. That is a basket of 500 biggest companies.
Okay.
That's where most of everyone's retirement accounts are in.
Okay.
If you check your retirement account, most retirement accounts invest in an S&P 500 mutual fund or index fund. Then you have the NASDAQ. That is just technology funds.
Okay, I didn't know that.
That's way more volatile than the S&P. The S&P 500, they have many different branches of many different. It's the ultimate diversification. And if I were to suggest anything to anyone, I would suggest to put your money into the S&P 500. The reason why is because, for instance, the NASDAQ right now is taking a brutal beating. It is down, it went almost down 30% away from its highs because of fears of interest rates rising.
Right.
Now, the problem with interest rates is a lot of tech companies, they need to borrow money in order to grow. They need money to grow, so they need to borrow money. If the rate to borrow that money is too high, they're not going to borrow. It's going to slow growth. So anytime interest rates go high, stocks go down, especially technology.
Right.
So I would say to most people, just open up a brokerage account. You could open it up any brokerage. You can use Robinhood, you can use Webull, you could use TD Financial, you could use, honestly, any brokerage account that you feel like. And just a general good ETF that you could start putting money into is something called SPY. That is SPY. That represents that represents 500 companies. You're basically owning a small piece of 500 companies. We're talking about Home Depot, Walmart, Apple, Tesla, all of the major players, Microsoft, Facebook. Now, the problem that some people get involved with is playing with single stocks. I do both. Most of my money is in these big index funds that has 500 companies, sometimes 1,000 companies. But I invest in Google. I have Google, I have Tesla.
You definitely got to show me how to even get started to things like that. Google or Facebook, I know are big ones. So
there are easy steps. As soon as you open up a brokerage account, it's never been easier to buy stocks, and that's one of the problems.
Okay, but how much do people put up at first? That's the big thing. People don't know. Are they putting too little in or too much?
It's better to do.
But how do you know what to put in it?
It's better to do incremental steady, routine
Mm-hmm.
investments into the major indices. Right now, the stock market is on sale.
Mm.
So if you have not started investing, you should be excited. It should be the same way as if you go to the mall and you see everything is on sale. You can buy companies right now for cheaper than people were paying for them last month.
Wow, okay.
And I think that you should. Now, could your investment go down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's why you should be buying steady so that you can keep buying. If it goes down, you buy some more. I think people need to be more focused on the amount that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You want as much money invested into the stock market as you possibly comfortably can.
Right, comfortably.
Now, do we have time to talk about real estate a little bit?
Well, what part of it do you want to talk? Because we do only have maybe 10 minutes or so. So I don't know what part you want to share. Yeah, I mean, it's fine if we go over a little more, but like I said earlier, we can always do a part two and part three if necessary, because you do have a lot of knowledge you want to share. So do you want to talk briefly about real estate, or just like how people can get into it, or whatever you want to share?
My advice as far as real estate goes is,
Hey, Wanda, thank you for joining.
so most people would go to the bank like I did and say, how much can I afford?
Right.
And they will end up giving you more money than you can afford.
Right, I remember.
Even now, even all of the lessons that they learned from the 2008 mortgage crisis, they are still handing out mortgages to people who can't afford them.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I want to be more conservative, more safe. It goes back to what I said early on. When you own something and you feel comfortable knowing that next month someone can't come and take it. When you buy too much house, when you buy too much car, when you buy things you can't afford, you are not comfortable. You cannot sleep comfortably because you know next week or 2 weeks from now, someone can just come and take it. They can take your home, they can take your car, they can take everything. So I would say, if you're looking at buying a house, look at your net pay. That means after your taxes get taken out of all of your health insurance, your dental, after all of that gets taken out, that is what is left in your net pay. I don't believe that your mortgage should be more than 30% of that.
Right, that's what they say about apartments too.
The reason why is you need margin, and margin is cushion. Companies need margin. Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, these companies, they need margin. They need a cushion room so they know that they can invest to their own company, and they are not going to go into debt and close.
Right.
We need margin too. We need to start thinking like them.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if you want to be like me, back when I lost everything, I ended up, my mortgage was 45% of my net pay. There's no margin. There's no cushion room. once you start adding utilities, gas, food, I was in the red every month. Now, my current home, right now, I have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. And I guess I have some PTSD from all of the...
Probably, yeah.
So I am extremely conservative. My mortgage right now is about 10%. Maybe 8 or 9%. Maybe 8 or 9% of my net pay. On top of that, I'm paying an extra 50% of my mortgage payment on top of that. Because I want this house paid off in the next 7 or 8 years. In the meantime, that is my way of investing. I'm investing into stocks, and I'm investing into my own house. And I'm going to end up buying another house as soon as I get this house paid off.
And I'm definitely rooting for you, because it's definitely not easy, you know, getting that even if your first house, you know, is a challenge for many people. You know, they say once you get your first home or just a first house, whether you live in it or not, it's easier to work your way into the second or third home. That's if you're able to learn from, you know, the first time.
I bought 3 homes. And one of them has been taken away from me, and I'm not going to let that happen again.
Right. Of course, you learn from that.
It was very nice speaking with you tonight.
Yes, you as well. I have one final thing. Would you like to share and on the Q-tip? It can be related to, you know, to stocks, investing, or real estate, or getting out of debt. It can be about your career, whatever you would like to share for the viewers that's watching.
Yeah, I think that we need to do a better job as far as the Black community goes with children, with our children. I think that we need to give them hope and give them a path that they can walk down.
Right.
What I mean by that is there's a lot of children right now who end up going to college and they have no idea what they want to do.
Right.
We put them out into a world where they have no idea what they're doing. And I think that we need to do better at guiding them. And how I am personally doing that is I'm asking my kids now, what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of things do you want to do? One of my sons is very into music, and I am going to push him and invest everything that I possibly can into that.
Right.
And that's it.
No, that's a great tip. You know, you always have to push yourself, and it's great to have, you know, a support system there to help you along the way too. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of his music soon. You're gonna have to play some for us.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate
we already made a record.
Oh, I can hear some now in the back.
No, I'd have to call him downstairs.
Oh, okay. it's always encouraging to hear stuff like that, especially from a father, a Black father. Black fathers, rule. So, but I just want to say I appreciate you coming, on tonight, sharing the knowledge that you did share with us. It's all very important things for us to know, of people of all communities, but especially within the Black community. So I'm definitely going to have you come on for a part 2 to continue this conversation, because there is a lot to it, a lot of different levels to it. But I appreciate you coming on and at least giving an introduction to these different topics to help us, because there's so many things we can be doing, as a community, as far as building and owning. Those are 2 big things. We're starting the process of that, learning how to invest and how to own properties and things, but there's still a lot more for us to learn, as far as investing. And the biggest thing, getting out of debt, is a huge thing in the Black community. We just keep accumulating more and more. So if you know how to get out of debt, you can probably change your life, such as you have before, and you are doing.
African Americans are twice as likely to have overdraft fees than whites.
Oh yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
1.9.
Right. I believe it.
And that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. And that has to change. But it will change with people like yourself coming on and giving people advice and tips from their own experiences and what they can do to change that. So I'm, optimistic about that. And I look forward to, seeing what you have coming, in the future when you purchase your next home and whatever other ventures you have in store. I'm sure you have some other things planned, and I'll just look online and I'll probably see it, or I'll just reach out to you and see what you're up to, because I'm open to learning as well. So I want to get more into investing and stuff. So I just need to know how to start, and I think that's the big thing, just knowing where to start. So anyone who's watching tonight pretty much got a lot of tips on where to begin. It's never too late to start, improving on your life.
And it's a great time to invest right now.
Yes, it sounds like it is. But again, I just want to say thank you for coming on tonight. We're going to wrap up tonight's show. So I appreciate you, Jean, for coming on. This will be up, of course. It's on Facebook Live, YouTube Live as well. So I appreciate everyone that came on, that was watching. We had a number of people watching, people also commenting. And share, please, for us. Like, share, subscribe, show us both some support. So it'll be very much appreciated. So Jean, I'll hit you up later tonight. I'll have this again posted on those pages for people to watch again if they couldn't comprehend everything that you were talking about tonight. So I appreciate you again. I hope you have wonderful 2022, which I know you are.
Thank you. You as well.
Yes, thank you. All right, have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night.